Okay. So, well, first of all, hello everyone. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Well, as you can see in the presentation, we all work for Mercap. It's a financial. Here in Mercap, we made financial solutions. So I'm gonna pass this first slide and start telling you about it and telling you about us, I think. Yay, that's the first one. Well, I think it's easier if everyone can add something when I introduce you, because even though I know you, I don't know, maybe you want to say something special. So following in order from the first phase to the last phase, the first one is Gabi. He's an architect here in Mercap. Maxi, or Tavi, as we call him, he's a software developer,
architect as well.
Also an architect here in Mercap.
I count as an architect.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, for me you count as doctor.
Okay, yeah.
Because he has a PhD in computer science. Mati, he is a software developer and a team leader of one of our products. He will show the product later. Ivo, also software developer. And well, that's me. My name is Ines. I am a software developer and a team leader here in Mercap, and I will talk about one of our products, the oldest one of our products. So I don't know if you want to add anything special. Sorry, I didn't make notes for talking about you, so you can say anything you want.
No, we agreed that people watching this can ask questions as we advance, since we are going to talk about different things. You can interrupt us at each slide so that the question does not keep going around until the end, because it's going to be a long wait till the end. So if anyone wants to ask us about ourselves, this is the slide. So I'm not sure if there are any question about us, but it will be the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that everything, it was kind of summarized in the video of the mail, except Mati and my video were very, very, very short and had nothing to say about that. So, well, as Maxi said, you can ask about us anything at any time. I think it's better for everyone. So I think you don't have any question for us, so I will move to the next slide. I'll take that as a no. So
there was one question in the chat. Are you all Smalltalk developers?
Yes.
Yeah, all Smalltalk developers.
Yes.
Now there's a slide about the company, I think. So
yes.
Now Ines will tell you about how much Smalltalk we use.
Well, this is the third slide actually, but I will talk a little bit about Mercap. We are a financial IT company that have more than 30 years in the market, and our goal is to simplify the access to finance through investment and administration software. All of the software that we made is financial software, mostly aimed to banks and brokers. So I don't think you will be able to buy products from us, because I think you are not banks. Well, yes, there's one product that we can that is available to everyone. But besides creating products, we also focus on working on the architecture and the scalability of our products, of our solutions, to improve them over time. You are going to see that as we talk about our products, because it's kind of a timeline. You are going to see from the first product that Mercap made to the last one, and you are going to notice how the architectures changed over time. And to achieve that progress in the architecture of our products and the financial world, which is a very complex world to work in, we rely heavily on the use of Smalltalk. I'm going to tell that now that all of our products are made in Smalltalk, in BA and Pharo and Gemstone. I think those are the three Smalltalks that that we work on. if I'm not forgetting something. So almost everything is made in Smalltalk, and we rely on the language and the community also, because we are going to talk about in this talk about frameworks that you can use, not things that we keep for ourselves. That wouldn't be really interesting for you, I must say. And talking about the community, we have a GitHub group that is called BAST, that is mostly constituted by Mercap employees or ex-Mercap employees. And there you can find a lot of tools and frameworks that are available to you. Here in Mercap, we invest hours in making frameworks that are useful to us, but also that we consider that are useful to the Smalltalk community. You can check that out later, but actually, right now we have 38 repositories that are available.
Just want to check. We have the question there.
Oh, okay. All of them are MIT licensed, and all of them are supported in Pharo and BA. But in GitHub, we have the Pharo version.
Yeah.
And we might have some gemstone repositories also.
Yeah.
We have some of them compatible, but mostly Pharo, and some of them have gemstone support.
But what? Through this meeting, we're going to tell you about some of the frameworks, not all of them, because
Most of them.
Most of them, the 38 repositories, is like a lot to talk about.
We show 14, I think.
14? I counted, and it says 38. If you go to
No, 14 in the presentation.
14 in the presentation.
At least
okay.
I put 14 logos at the end.
Oh, okay.
So at least 14 will be mentioned, or you can ask us about those 14.
But well, we invite you to. I don't know what.
What's that?
I think it's. Okay.
Can you hear us?
Sorry, we are experiencing some electricity/internet problems here, but
I'm not sure if you're transmitting.
no, it's disconnected. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
And we can still see you actually.
Well,
yeah.
You can see us?
Oh no, maybe you've frozen.
I think we're frozen.
yes.
Look at this.
Yeah, that's because of, I think it's this thing
Okay.
that it's not working very well. I think. I don't remember who of the USBs is from the camera, but I think it will. Okay, let me. Sorry, I will check the configuration, the Zoom configuration, because you should be able to see. Okay, so I'll keep talking and expect that the camera comes back. So, well, you have the frozen picture of us to remember our faces.
All right.
Sorry. Well, we invite you to visit the GitHub group and to check the repository, use them. We really hope that they are useful to you, those tools, and you can use them and enjoy them. And they, what, something else? Okay,
Yeah.
so please check GitHub and see if something that is useful to you, and if you have comments or issues, of course you can manage them through GitHub. So do you have any questions about that? About this? If you don't have questions about this part, I'm going to start talking about our products. So any questions in the chat?
No, nothing in the chat.
Oh, I think move on and show us some stuff. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Well, the first thing that I am going to talk about is our oldest product, which is called Unitrade. Here in the screen, you can see just a video of the product and the menus and stuff. You don't really have to pay attention to it. Yeah, it's like a background video to see. Well, this is the first solution that Mercap made, and it's specifically designed for the Argentinian barking market. So it's just for local regulations. It includes money desk, security exchange, treasury, custody businesses. It allows the bank to manage their own portfolio, and it also provides support for corporate clients. One thing that is interesting about UniTrade is that all of our customers manage more than 50% of their capital inside UniTrade. So here it's where kind of most of the bank's money is managed. But well, that's just a small intro because again, I'm not really here to talk about the product itself, but most about what the product does or how it's made. It was made 25 years ago, so it's kind of an oldie, wow. I guess. We currently have 13 customers all over the country. And it has five modules. Oh,
if we can make the application screen bigger, but
so we can see the details.
I don't think we can do that.
No, I don't think we can do that, but I don't know.
A question?
Yes.
Which country are you talking about?
Argentina.
Argentina, okay.
Yeah. It's this solution is specifically designed for the local market. Well, because it's complex, it has a lot of particularities, and there are a lot of new regulations and transactions that are coming out. So this product is just for the local market. But well, as I was saying, we have 5 modules. The main module where the traders work. We have an administration module where all the configuration of the application is being managed, connection to databases, other systems are managed here. We have a security module where we manage the users and the things that they can and cannot do in the system. We also have a branch office module that I'm going to show you later because it's a little bit different. And we have a reporting module that some of our customers have, others don't, that allows them to execute reports about the system and the operations that they do, the amount of money that they have, and all of that stuff. Well, here's like a little graph of all the operations that can be managed in UniTrade. You can manage the front office, middle office, and back office operations. It has connectivity with markets in real time and other systems that belongs to the banks. We also provide information to other systems. We act as a server and as a client, depending on the module. And well, everything has a report that can be executed to gather information.
There was a question about which Smalltalk dialect we're using.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to talk about later, but since you asked, I'm going to tell you now that it's mostly developed in VA, Smalltalk, but we have a few modules made in Pharo. But mostly it's
and the user interface is in
yeah. Don't spoil me.
No, they asked which dialect of Smalltalk, and we said everything is in Smalltalk. Well, the little UI here is maybe not.
But just give me a second, and I will get to that.
Okay.
Actually, in the next slide. So the architecture of UniTrade is really, really simple. It's just a client-server architecture. We have a transactional databases. We can use more than one database and more than one database engine at the same time. We mostly use Microsoft SQL, but we have support for other engines like Oracle SQL. The application is an on-premise application that it's on our client server on Windows, because here in Argentina banks use Windows, so we have to make an application for Windows only. They don't use Linux at all, so it's on Windows. And the clients connect to Unitrade with a framework that is called, I think, this desktop client that is called ULC, which means ultra light client. And it's a Java graphic library that provides server-side programming interface. So there is no logic in the client, and it's easy to distribute the product because we only install the product in the server and every user can access to it through ULC. We don't have to update. They only need to have Java in their PCs, and that's all. And as the name, it's really ultra light. And as I said before, it's mostly developing VA, but we have some things in Pharo, and we also have a web module that I think it's next. Yeah, we have a web module. Yes.
I think you should clarify that we don't write the UI in Java.
Oh, yes, sorry.
You write it in Smalltalk, and then the
it's
client,
rendered in Java. Yeah, the Java framework only renders the
specification.
views. Yeah,
it's like a Smalltalk specification.
Yeah, it's a Smalltalk specification, and Java draws the windows. That's all. Well, here's the web module. As I said, it's web and has web views, and this is the starting point to talk about the frameworks, because this web module is not it's not built in URC. So now is there
something else? Is ULC the old add-on package delivered from IBM 25 years ago? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think currently we are the only company in the world
No,
still
we're
using.
not.
Oh, no,
We are not. No, I was searching about ULC, Googling about ULC, and actually I found that there's a kind of new version, but I found it in like a Dutch Wikipedia page that I translated, and apparently there's a new version, but I don't know where to get it. So, but yes, the main question is yes, we use the IBM ULC. We are not the only ones who use it.
Okay.
But we don't know anyone who uses it.
It's impressive, but it still works. Actually, that's quite amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of impressive because not only it still works, but works pretty well actually. It's not the nicest things that you can use to make UI, but it works pretty well. So we keep using it. But
yeah, no problem with that.
Telling that ULC is ultra light.
Yeah, ultra light. I think that apparently the camera activated, and I'm just going to ignore it.
Okay.
Linux.
We are not transmitting anything now. It's not even the still.
No.
Your video has stopped. Your screen's gone. We can see the outline of your slides.
The screen is gone. You cannot see the screen.
No, I think that's because the video.
Just the embedded video is finished.
This one was very short. I didn't intend to stop in this line in particular, so the video is kind of short. I'm going to move to the next one. So yeah, well, as I said before, here in Mercap, we made custom frameworks, and in Unitrade we use all of these frameworks that you can find on GitHub. We use Willow and Woi for the web module that I just showed you. Willow is for writing the components of the web views, and Woi is for rendering the CSS of the web view.
No, that's Renoir.
Renoir, sorry, I was just reading it in the wrong order. Yes, it's Renoir. Willow and Renoir kind of work together. Willow is for drawing the components of the web views, and Renoir is for rendering the CSS. Sorry about that. Woi is just an extension for collections, error handling, and math that provides a lot of useful methods that don't exist in the Smalltalk collection specification, for example. Then we have Aconcagua and Chalten. Aconcagua is for measurements. I'm going to expand a little bit later. And Chalten, it's an extension for dates. And we also have Kepler and Stargate. Kepler is for making systems and to keep the functionality in systems that talk to each other. And Stargate is for making RESTful APIs. So, any question about this so far?
No, nothing in the chat. I don't know if anyone has any question. We'll be checking these frameworks one at a time in the different, as we see the different products.
Yeah. So moving on. The first one is Stargate. First one is Stargate. I thought it was the last one. I just have it in the wrong order. Okay, Stargate is a library, as it says here in the slide, for supporting HTTP RESTful APIs. It uses Sync and Teapot, and it allows you to create simple RESTful APIs that includes the.
There are questions here. Let's see. What for Pharo VA? Oh, something's asking what we said before.
We already
They're all for. Oh, yeah, that's okay.
well,
Mati is answering on the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you can move on.
Thanks, sorry. Well, Stargate is to simplify the creation of RESTful APIs, including content negotiation, API versioning, e-tags, pagination operations, error handling, and hypertext as the engine of the application state. Yeah. Okay.
Now, relating to the questions that they are asking because of the frame.
Did we lose them? We can't hear you anymore, Ines. They did say there'd been a few power failures where they are, so hopefully it'll come back. We're still seeing, well, actually, are we seeing their screen? We'll give them a second to come back. Yeah, they've entered the Stargate. This is where a little song and a dance would be helpful. I know I often see them announce different updates to these libraries, and I'm never quite sure what each library, well, each repo does. So it's quite useful to get a little bit of an introduction to some of these. Yeah, they're coming back in, right? Maybe someone's laptop ran out. Joining. Hopefully they can. Otherwise, it might have to be a show us your projects.
Oh, okay.
You're back.
You're back?
You back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we're experiencing some trouble with it.
Yeah, no, we figured that was the case. The irony that the irony that it was Stargate that you were talking about. We thought you disappeared. Then. Who did you log in as? Are you back as you? Are you still a co-host? That's what I just want to check whether I have to make someone else.
I think I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay, you're back. Okay, cool. All right.
Can you share again?
Yes, I am.
Oh, it's sharing. Okay.
Yeah, I am sharing again.
All right.
Can you confirm if you can see the slides?
We can see the slides and we can see the Stargate slide.
Okay.
Okay.
So, well,
Perfect. There we go. Right. Okay, good.
yeah, so as I was saying, well, that's everything about Stargate. I hope you enjoyed it.
Right.
No, sorry, I don't know the last thing that you said, that you hear, but well.
We heard e-tags versioning. I think you were on
yeah,
to.
that's kind of the last thing that I said until I realized that we didn't have internet. So
I think you're okay if you moving on to the next repo, I guess.
okay, no, I'm just going to add that it's really useful if you want to implement hypermedia driven APIs and to structure HTTP REST APIs. So moving on to the next framework, the next one is Aconcagua. It's named after, let me hear that. It's named after the Aconcagua mountain, that is the highest mountain in America, the continent, and it's the highest one in the southern hemisphere. I think it's the second one behind.
I don't know.
Well,
We have to.
well, we are not talking about.
We should have researched that before.
No, it's the highest of the continent. That's
okay.
That's for sure. Well, it's a library that it allows the programmer to use measurements in arithmetic expressions as if they were numbers, but the advantaging of providing explicit information. So all the arithmetic operations are being validated when they are evaluated, and the model encapsulates them, and you can interact as if they were numbers, but they have the unit. So to show you a little example here.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah. Here it's an example of how you define a unit in Chalten. And Aconcagua, sorry, Chalten is another mountain. And also there's the name of another framework. So sorry for the confusion. Well, for example, if you want to define a meter, you have to define the base unit with a name. In this case, is meter, and a sign. This is actually optional, but it's good to have it. And then you define a proportional derived unit that uses the base unit that we defined before as its base unit. In this case, it's a meter, and we are defining a centimeter. And it's nice because you provide the conversion factor and you can start using it as what it is. It's a unit. It's a unit, and if you want to add it to a meter, it's going to automatically know what we are trying to do. And for example, here, if you ask the meter what if it's the unit, it says that the unitary unit of a meter is 1 meter. But you can define every kind of units that you want. For us, I think it's especially interesting because we can also define currencies, which are tricky to manage. Yes,
implementation
goes back to this quick implementation. I think, yeah, Aconcagua is available on Squeak, but it's the same thing. I think the first version was made in VA. I think the first version was made in VA. Actually, if you go to GitHub, you will find the original paper, and you can see the history.
Maybe Hernan did some.
Yeah, they ported to Quiz.
Quiz.
And to Squeak. So Aconcagua, it's one, I think it's implemented in more Smalltalk dialects than the other frameworks.
Yeah,
Because
yes, because it's also older.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest ones. You can use it in BA.
Look,
Pharo.
there's this Hernan Wilkinson answering about.
There you go.
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
hi, Hernan.
He must know about that.
Yeah. Maybe he can talk about it. It's his framework.
Well, someone asked if it's possible to add meters and centimeters. Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Because one is a derived unit of the other one.
Yeah.
And if you add non-convertible units, you obtain something like a bag, measuring bag. So you can have 1 meter more plus 1
second.
Yeah, that's the next example. That what Gabi was talking about is if I have a meter and a second and I try to operate between them and I ask the base unit, it actually returns a centimeter per minute because you cannot really operate between them, but it generates a new unit. Yeah, it's a
and if you later divide by minutes,
you get a
will
centimeter
simplify
again.
automatically.
Yeah,
Nice.
so it's a really nice abstraction.
In our context, we use it for multiplying money and bonds or financial instruments, so to not mix the numbers.
Yeah, especially when we are operating between currencies, because you don't want to mess with the conversion factor of currencies. So if there,
No, it's fine. No, it's Hernan saying hi.
Okay, hi. So the next one is Chalten. It's like an extension of Aconcagua, but it's focused on time modeling for dates, years, and months. The idea behind it is because the Smalltalk 80s and the ANSI Smalltalk implementation lacked a model for a lot of abstractions for dates.
Oh dear, we've lost them again.
Dates, compare dates, and I'm not going to read it. You can already see it in the slide.
No, that's the other units framework.
Oh, yeah, nice. And it also have like you can use different calendars as Gregorian, Julian, Islamic, Hebrew. We mostly use Gregorian here. So.
And presumably you need that in Unitrade because
Yes.
you're doing
just
trades
because
across.
someone thought it was compatible.
Yep.
Sorry, we are not getting all of that.
You're breaking.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Have we got you back?
Yeah.
Everybody else.
I think you're back again. I think it might be worth moving on. So I think you've got quite a lot of material, haven't you? So if you want to move forward, we can come back on questions on some of the other pieces at the end. Oh, we've lost them again. Crumbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back again.
Yeah,
Oh, you're back. Okay, all right.
Switching from one internet to the other. You need to share again.
Yeah, you are not getting rid of us so easily.
There we go. Right, good. Are you there? We've got their screen, but I'm hoping we're going to get their voice back again.
You lost us again?
We lost you. We lost you briefly, but I think you're back now.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Right. Good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, it's one of these things. Global when we've got a global audience, sometimes it happens. Anyway, keep going through. If someone's watching the recording, they can fast forward through those bits. Hopefully we're going to get your voice back again. This is a good moment for everyone in the audience to open a beer and take a big swig. Hopefully their internet issues can be resolved. Just bear with us a second.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. All right, okay.
So this is very frustrating. We don't usually have these problems.
It's just one of those days. Anyway, try your best. We're all behind you. Don't worry.
This started 30 minutes of the meeting, I think.
So again, sharing the screen. Yeah. Oh.
All right, hopefully your screen is sharing and we're
Now it's
just waiting for you. There, your screen's back. There we go. All right.
We're back. Sorry again. Well, once again, you can compare dates, and here in this example, you can compare days and dates. Like January 1st is smaller than December 25th, and things like that. So I will move on to the next slide, and I will hope that the internet holds with us. So
okay.
So now
moving on to the next
now it's my turn.
application.
Yeah,
it's Maxi's turn.
Let me get my notes so I don't miss the stuff that I wanted to tell you about. Okay, so now another product. As we said, we'll be showing different products as like to showcase what the different frameworks can do. Okay, so Ines show you Unitrade.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell you about Trading Room. This is another product. Again, this is just a video to have in the background so that you know what kind of stuff can be created using Smalltalk that you already know. Smalltalk is very powerful, and we also are adding these frameworks that are open source for you to use. So this is Trading Room. It's another product. It's also made for banks in Argentina, but for other part of the bank, that's the Trading Room. That's why we call it's a very non-original name. It's the Trading Room product for the trading room in the bank. That's where basically the people that manage the bank's money decide what to do with the cash flow, where to spend it, and what are their compromises, and what if they had a loan, if they have a loan and they have to use that money that they got or return it, how they stand with the central bank, and stuff like that. I don't know if you want to keep repeating the video or once or maybe once or twice, because okay. Well, this is like a very important part of the bank as well. Not all of our customers that have Unitrade have the trading room system, but all of those that have the trading room have Unitrade, and they share some connections. The interesting thing is that even some banks have both. They treat each other like external systems. They communicate using normal communication. We are not using like anything internally in Smalltalk. They are different installations, different versions of VA. And Training Room is a completely web application using Seaside. And it also has a lot of integration with other market systems. Most of the system is used for reporting purposes and to check the cash flow, because even though it has stuff to add, remove, I don't know, trades, most of it is done automatically via import systems and stuff like that. And it also has a multi-currency, since we are using Aconcagua, and the bank can keep their balances in pesos, but also know how many dollars they have, and everything is it's kept with different objects underneath. If you see you have measurements in dollars, it's because there's really a measurement object that has a dollar unit, and it's just a visual thing. We are really working with.
Oh no. We've lost him again. We need a quiz. What was he going to say? They're working in pennies, do you think, maybe, or working in some lower unit?
It's back.
Are we back?
Kind of, hopefully.
Yeah.
You just said you were working in, and we were just trying to guess what you were working in. Were you working in some lower level unit and converting, or I don't know?
Okay. Okay. I was mentioning that the system is using Aconcagua, so when you see, for instance, in the still of the video, that there are dollars and pesos, it's not just a visual thing, but there are really measurement objects underneath, so we can do the math with it. And it's only like converted to numbers and strings when it's rendered online on the screen.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then we saw that there was a question whether Willow was working on top of Seaside. And I was telling you that currently it is. The current version of Willow requires Seaside and has a prerequisite. We've researched that we are not using that much of Seaside, so eventually it could be worked into something independent, or maybe on top of a way, but we didn't have the need for that. So if you got all that, let's move to the next slide. Are we sharing? Okay. Okay. So more on if there are no more questions about training, so the lecture system, it has a application with 800 applications, what VA calls applications, it's like Pharo packages, more than 8,000 classes for the model, a lot of tests over that, more than 3,000 tests are in the standard suite, that we run them every time a development is completed. And that includes also user story tests. We also have the chance to run them in memory or against the database. We're using Glorp here. That's I don't know if everyone knows about Glorp, but well, we are working using Glorp for the relational database. And that installation is running Seaside, which has Willow loaded on top of it, and that's what creates all the rendering for the pages. Something interesting about this one, this was the first product that we developed on Mercap with a full web interface. This has nothing to do on the client's desktop, except that they open the browser and they just go to the corresponding website. Okay. Any question? On this, just to let you know that we are using Aconcagua, Chaltén, Boy, Renoir, Boardwalk, that Ines didn't mention, I think, before. Boardwalk.
No,
okay.
we didn't use.
There are some of the frameworks that you can check in the GitHub group that we are not going to go into detail here because they only add some classes or extensions to some classes. Boy is one of them. And there is Boardwalk. Boardwalk is just some extra objects and features for Seaside that we need before we load Willow. We are also using Hyperspace and Superluminal. That's for creating some HTTP requests. We have very heavy use of Willow that I'll explain now, and also a little bit of Ansible that you will explain later. Yeah. Okay, so let's go into Renoir. Renoir is working with Willow, but it's a separate thing, okay? Because we tend to use both of them together, but they could be used separately. Renoir is for creating the CSS of the application. It's a DSL that allows the programmatic generation of the CSS. We have a very complete tutorial that you can check there. Okay, I don't know if you can. No, you won't be able to copy from the presentation. Maybe then we can share it in the.
We can share the slides.
We can share the slides, and we can share maybe the link in the question section.
Yeah.
So that if anyone wants to check it out, and if not, well, if you enter just the Renoir page, you can go and check the tutorial. We just wanted to let you know that the tutorial in the Renoir page is quite complete, and it walks you through the different contents and features that it has. Okay, so just for you to get an idea on how we use it, go to the next slide. In trading room, we are subclassing from the reflective cascading style sheet builder, and you just write a method that will, by using metaprogramming, will be considered when building then the style sheet. So you say, I want to declare a rule for this class table row total, which will have a font weight bold. Okay, so that's the way that you say that in Renoir. And then you have to make sure in the WA presenter subclass in Seaside that when you're doing the render content on, you assign the class that will be that was mentioned in the CSS. Okay, is that clear? But I mean, you should really check the tutorial, but just so you see how we use it. Okay.
Is that the table row total that is the class, right? Okay, I got you. We can't hear you again. I don't know if you're talking. No. Unfortunately, it seems to drop them in and out. Their internet is very patchy, but hopefully they'll come back and we can get a few more slides.
Okay, we are back.
You're back. Yep, good.
Okay. Sorry again and again. How much did you get? What's the last thing that you heard?
I think it was right after my question about table row total. I think you said yep, and then I'm not sure if you said something after that. I think it's probably fine. I think if it's got a good tutorial.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I
recall that it does. It's quite an interesting framework. I've not had a chance to play with it much myself, so I really do want to. But it's neat. Thank you for doing it.
Okay, well,
CSS is a right pain to program. I hate it. It's I think lots of people do, but so having a nice language around it is does make it more palatable.
Okay, well, then Willow is another framework that we are using. That's the one that we mentioned a lot of already. That's on top of Seaside. It offers it comes with ready-to-use components for the web applications, and it's focused on having interactive web applications, like a single-page applications, okay, and that use a lot of Ajax to move around. There are a lot of sub-projects using Willow. The first one is the Willow core that you need to load to be able to create components and have the interaction affordances. Then we have Willow Bootstrap that you need to load to be able to have a web application that has Willow features but creates Bootstrap components. The same goes down there. We have the semantic UI and jQuery UI. They are not that well maintained, but they use the same protocol, so you can change one for the other and have different styles in your application. Then we have the Willow Spinky, that's a small one that allows having Spinky like loading indicators. The most important that you need to know about is Willow Playground. Willow Playground will load most of the others and will allow you to start a tutorial made using Willow that will teach you about Willow, okay? So it's like a self-referencing project that gives an overview on the different features, but you can also check it because it's implemented with the idea that people learn about Willow by seeing how it was done. Okay, we also have Willow Auth0 that has the integration for your application to use that authentication. And the other one is the Willow Mix panel that also has some extra features over Willow so that you can connect your application, your web application to Mix panel. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is that if you want to learn about Willow, the first thing that you could do is go to the Mercap technical blog at Medium. Then we can share the link, but it's basically medium.com Mercap tech blog. And what we have there is a 6-part article that has a step-by-step introduction on how to do a simple to-do application using Willow. So if you want to start small, you can go there. And if you find it interesting, you can download the Willow Playground and see how it's implemented. And then, of course, all the projects there are open source. If you want to ask a question, you can go to the GitHub page. If you want to propose some new feature or want to, send a pull request, we'll be happy to check it.
David asked, what are the limitations for Willow? You've mentioned some time ago that you want to replace it with something else. Is it Ajax that's being disliked?
Is it Ajax?
Yeah.
No, if we change if we remove Seaside, if we ever do that, but we've never had the motivation, I think, to do that much. But to go to that point of removing Seaside, we could replace it with Teapot or something else, but it would not remove the presence of the Ajax components. Okay, I don't know if that answers the question. David could let us know if that's what the okay.
Because sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to check because there are other things that emerged my attention, like that some frameworks, which is called, I think, Code Paradise, they're using the WebSockets. So just wondering if this is something you have experimented as well.
No, we never tried WebSockets in our applications. I know that it's not supported, like off the shelf. So I wouldn't know if moving from away from Seaside and into something else below Willow would make that easier or harder. Maybe it could be combined. What we did was we started working with Seaside and we started creating components that we needed. Then we saw that Seaside allowed us to write JavaScript, but we wanted to reify those scripts in JavaScript to not be able to remember all of that and to have it like in a simpler way. And then once we had all of the Willow sub projects ready, we realized that it's not that much of Seaside what we are using any longer. So we could try removing that dependency, but I don't know if it would make any sense. I mean, it's not that much of Seaside that we are using, but it's a prerequisite currently. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
Then let's move to the next one. Okay. So I put some simple example there as well, because we are using it in trading room. The idea was just that we wanted to have all the interactions reified. So as you can see, well, first you need to subclass from Willow application because you need to connect to the session. That's where out0 will connect if you have it, and you can tell it there if you want to use Bootstrap or jQuery UI, semantic UI, or something like that, and configure the application. And then it's just a matter of subclassing from WA presenter in Seaside and just calling the component supplier. As you can see there, I can say self component supplier because it will add in an extension. And then I ask it for a button with some specific CSS classes. And that's those classes, well, you need to have some Renoir also there because you're talking about the CSS classes. And then I can ask to the button, I can tell it how to behave. For example, the button on trigger, I want it to disable it and do something on the server. Okay, that's that disable and then server do on trigger are encapsulating a lot of JavaScript, just so you can write it in Smalltalk in a nice way.
These last 3 lines basically are adding an event listener on the button in the document object, setting up JavaScript to disable it when clicked, and doing an Ajax to the server and running the block.
Here, David Mason has a pretty interesting question.
Okay.
Have you thought about using Pharo.js to generate the JS parts of your UI? He says they'd be happy to help to explore it.
No, we haven't thought about it, mostly because I'm not sure. By the time we learned about Pharo.js, I think we have most of the code in Willow already written. We could check it. I mean, the thing is that we are at a point now in the use of Willow where we are comfortable with it, but this does not mean that it couldn't move forward in a good direction. Maybe connecting it to Pharo.js. I don't know. It could be done. If you haven't checked Willow and you want to, I don't know, download, check the playground and talk to us about combining it with Pharo.js, it could be nice to do. Okay.
Sure. May I interrupt? That's question. If you deploy on Pharo then with this application, trading room application?
No, trading room is written completely in VA. We deploy a package VA image that's installed on the client's premises on their computers, and then they run it, and the users internally in their own private network go to using their browsers to the website and to the server, and they use the application there.
So it's kind of like a rich client application, but using a web view. You install it on prem.
We install on premises the VA server, but then they use they connect to they use the application, they interact with the application via their web browser.
Yeah. How many people use that? you have used that with a database, and what database are you using?
The database, it's a SQL server because we are using Glord in VA to connect to it. How many people? Tens. No, I'm not sure if hundreds. No, mostly tens, I think. The training room of the banks is a small. Yeah, it's a very select group of people that bear in mind that they decide what to do with the bank's money, and the bank will never give that authority to a large group of people. So here we're talking, I think, mostly 10 people, maybe.
It's not about web scaling or other.
We know that it upscales because Unitrade has web modules that are used by more than.
Yeah, one of our clients uses the branch office web module that it's made with Willow, and they have over 700 branch offices that at least that's 700 users.
But there are more than one user per office.
Basically, like the base is 700 users, but they have more than one user per branch office using the system.
Do you run that with a single machine, or are you doing a load balancing in Apache or other for that to handle that scale?
I think that's just one server. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one server.
One server, and they connect from all the country to that server. All more than 700 users are connecting to the same server in Buenos Aires, I guess.
Yeah, it's here in Buenos Aires.
And it works fine. That's also using a SQL server database underneath, but it's not using Glord.
No, it's not using.
It's using like the default VA connection.
Yeah, standard connection.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question? I think let's see what's here.
It's good to get an idea of the kind of scaling that you're dealing with. It's sort of it's helpful for others following in other applications.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to show, that we can do different applications using Smalltalk with the different frameworks, and each framework adds features that allow you to have a nice application. Maybe not having to rewrite everything. You know, if you want to do application with Seaside, if you want to do a web application, you can use Seaside. If you want to add some interactive features to it, you can load Willow on top of it. If you want to have measurements for your application, you can use Aconcagua, and if you want to deal with dates, you can use Chalten. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, we'll move to another product and more frameworks.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about our newest product, that is Mercap Portfolio Cloud, and as the name says, it is completely cloud-based. So the idea of the product is if you have, it's a solution to manage your investments. So if you have your investments all over the place in various brokers, you will want to have everything in one place to look at metrics and so on. So this provides a solution for that problem. And currently we are offering two editions. One is for enterprises and one is for users just like me and you. Retail users. And yeah, the main difference is that the retail user will have like the data for just for himself, and the enterprise user will be looking, every user will be looking at the same data. And yeah, this is a big change because being completely cloudless, cloud, because we are going to forget about premise installations, and we are going just to deploy cloud, and the user can access to the link. So then, and the next slide, well, here you can see a little bit about how the product looks like. And in the next slide, I have a little bit about the architecture. So as you can see, the portfolio user can interact with the system in two ways. One is using the web application, that is Portfolio Cloud, and the other one is using an API that for the moment is a consulting API. so he can, get the data that he loaded into the system and can put it like in Power BI or Excel and use it how he pleases. And then we have a lot of services laying around. Mainly they are written in Pharo, but the one that says Pepper APIs, it is written in BA. And Portfolio Cloud and the reporting API are built using BA. So yeah, this is just of the architecture. And in the next slide, I show the frameworks that we currently using. We use a lot of them, and yeah, actually we are going to add one more, Ansible, the one I will be talking about later. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about Sagan. And next slide. Okay, so Sagan. Sagan is like a solution for you to implement persistence in your application. Here you have the link to the repository and also to the documentation that is really well written, so it's really helpful to start with. And in the next slide, I show a few examples. So the main notion that you have to have in Sagan is what's a repository. So this is used to store objects, to query them, and it provides like a unified interface to store your objects. You have two types. One is a in-memory repository provider, and the other one is the RD VMS. The difference is one works in memory and it's just like under the hood, it works like a orderly collection. And the other one is built on top of Glorp and is used when you want to implement a real persistence with your database. In this example, we are using PostgreSQL. And here what you have to do is use this repository provider. You give it this session that will be like the Glorp session, the connection to the platform. And you can give it like the single session or a pool session, whichever you want to use. And then to create a repository, you just have to say to the provider, okay, create this repository for storing objects of type investment account, in this case for the example. And you can tell it to check conflicts according to certain attributes. In this example, it is the name and the owner unique name. So if you want to store an investment account with a name and owner unique name that is already stored, it will say, okay, conflict found, you can store this object. It is also worth mentioning that it is nice to use the in-memory repository first, so you can implement the system and then worry about the mappings and so on, because they are like interchangeable. Because in the next slide we can see the interface that both the in-memory repository and the RDMS repository uses. And it's pretty simple. Like you have the store, push, an update, and then a final matching. And with one matching, that will be like a select and a detect. And this interface is shared within those two repositories. And in the next slide, you can see the part that would be concerning mapping. Once you have your repository and your system working, you have to deal with the mappings, and you have to, for each object that you're mapping to your database, you have to declare three classes to the objects. One is a table that will represent like the real table in your database. You have to declare like the name and the fields. Then a class model that it is used like to tell Sagan which class is your business object that you are storing and which attributes it has. And then the descriptor, that is like the connection between the table and the class model that you said, okay, this class map these attributes to the table in this way. And that's about it for Sagan. I don't know if you have any question. Okay, but yeah, if you want, you can check out the tutorial that is really complete and really useful.
It's an alternative to Glorp, or?
Come again?
If it is an alternative to Glorp.
Oh yeah, it works on top of LORP. For example, the RDMM repository works on top of LORP.
That the database repositories works on top of LORP. Then in memory are just in memory.
Just collections.
Yeah, that's other version. Yeah.
Just a nice protocol on top of it to make it polymorphic with the collections in Smalltalk.
Great. So then, this other framework, it is called Ansible. It is a client for the AMQP, like the advanced message queuing protocol. So you can implement like the protocol like queuing and routing, either point-to-point or publish subscribe. And I'm going to show you a little bit how you can implement queuing and then make a few notes about the other two. So next slide. Okay. Okay, sorry. So you can see how to implement the queuing protocol. First, you have to declare a connection. Okay, actually,
there's a question.
Okay,
about Gemstone. It says that we are also using Gemstone, and how we decide when to use the relational database and when to use the object database.
I think that the short answer is depending on the complexity of the objects you want to persist. If it's easy to map to a database, we use the database. If it's really complex, we put it in Gemstone.
And there's also the political part of it, because the banks do not allow us to use Gemstone because they want their database analyst to be able to manage what's happening. So we've had issues with trying to install a Gemstone-based solution in a bank. When we have it in our own server, or we are not talking about a bank, we have more leeway with deciding what to do, and depending on what's best from an architecture point of view.
Yeah, for example, in Portfolio Cloud, we are using mostly Postgres and only a little bit of Gemstone in the paper side. That is one of the APIs that we use. So yeah, going back to Ansible, as I was saying, before all this, you have to install a message broker in your computer, for example, RabbitMQ, and then you can create the connection to this broker. So in this example, we use, let's say, RabbitMQ. You have it in localhost. You create the connection, you open the connection, and then you have to create the channel to communicate with that broker. Once you have this, you can declare the queue. And this case is like pretty simple. You declare the queue, you say the name is task queue, and that's it. Pretty simple. And the next slide, we see how to set up the consumer, like the worker that is going to be picking up tasks from the queue. And it is also pretty simple. You say consume from the name of the queue. And then you pass it a block saying what you want to do when it consumes from that queue. In this case, it's a basic acknowledgement sent to the message broker. But you can do everything you want. Maybe you want to log something to the transcript or wherever you want. This is the place to say it. Then in the next slide, we have how to use the producer. Also pretty simple. It's this message basic publish. You send the message you want to send. Then you have this part that says exchange. I'm going to get a little bit into that in the next slide, but then you have, okay. Yeah, and routing key, you have to put the name of the queue. Now, yeah, the next slide. Okay. That was it about queuing. And then this protocol, like routing, we have like two phases.
Is there a question?
Yeah, sorry. Is there a question?
There's what's the use case for the messages? Is it for notification between users?
Okay, yeah. For example, we have a use case now implemented. We have an API that stores prices. So we use RabbitMQ and Ansible. So when the user asks for a price, it gets into the queue, and a worker is taking the tasks from this queue and use it in that fashion.
And I think there's another application that's using it. I think a part of trading room uses it to connect to some market information, to exchange messages about new trades.
Okay. Then again, routing. So we have two phases of routing of the protocol. One is the point-to-point, and the other one is
Piano
yeah.
TV. So today we are going to get into the nitty-gritty.
So I think someone has his microphone.
I've muted.
Got it. No problem. Okay, so point-to-point and publish and subscribe. There are a few differences setting up these two. First, you have to declare the exchange. The exchange is this abstraction that will be putting like the task in the queue that you declared previously. So here you said, okay, declare this exchange that is going to be named logs. And you can see between the two, between point-to-point and publish subscribe, you have the difference that one says direct and the other says fan out. The difference is because afterwards, when we bind this exchange to the queue, we want, in the case of point-to-point, to send the message only to one queue. And in the other case, we want to send the message to all the queues that you have bind to the exchange. And the part where we bind the exchange to the queues, oh, sorry, yeah. The part when I thought that we lost connection. So the part when we bind the exchange to the queues is the next part. They will say queue bind. So we bind this queue to the exchange called logs, and we put a routing key. So once again, we can see a little difference here. On one side, we have a routing key, and the other one, we don't have a routing key. That's because the difference in the protocol, in the point-to-point, you want the message to be taken by the workers from the queue with the same routing key that you send the message. And in the other case, it is publishing the messages to all the queues, so you don't really need a routing key. So yeah, this is a little bit about how Ansible works. There is a little bit more about it, but this is, I think, a great introduction. You can also check out the documentation. So yeah, that's it on my part, and I think now is.
Why is the method of point-to-point versus publish and describe? Why is it a string? The of, you say direct or of fan out, just seems odd, but it's a string for something that seems quite fundamental. Is that just underlying the libraries underneath? They kind of declare these things as a string. I'm not familiar, but
basically the difference is when you use direct, you send a message to the broker and it would route to a unique place that will consume that. The fan out is like you enter one message in the queue and it will duplicate for everyone that is connected.
Oh, he's asking why is it a string?
Yeah,
why is it a string and not a constant or something?
Okay.
Why is it not reified more?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the bit. Is it just it's a method that the broker understands or something? Is that a command or something? Or
Probably just like
We are not there yet.
no, it might be that underneath it's you have to pass it a string, so we didn't still need to reify it more than that. Yeah, it could maybe benefit from another iteration.
I think someone in the comment has said it's a predefined type or something. Anyway, I was just curious, but interesting. Yeah, like you said, these things evolve, don't they? So that's fair enough. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting for us. I haven't done any of this stuff yet, so it's nice to know that it's in the toolbox, to be honest.
Yeah, the idea of having this in GitHub is if someone wants to contribute it and start using it, we can all put our minds together to make it better.
Yeah, there's a lot of patterns that you can with this. So we are not using all the options still.
Oh, no, appreciate you sharing. It's great.
You can next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, Abaco. Abaco is a financial asset research tool. It's a web-based application. And it provides the user with essential information to make informed investment decisions. Abaco is pretty different from all the other applications you've heard before because, well, actually it has some things in common with Mercap Portfolio because it will also have a retail version. But the main difference is that this is the first consumer-oriented product. I mean, when I say consumer, I mean retail-oriented product that Mercap developed. So this is a pretty big deal because it's the first time that end users can sign into a platform without having to be a bank or a business and use our software to, in this case, make decisions about their investments or gather information. So this was like a product based on previous code from past. Yeah.
There's a question of we're using Pharo and we're DA. I'm not sure if they are talking about this product or the previous one.
Okay, I'll answer that in the next slide. Just be a little patient, I will be with you. So the thing is, Abaco started with, I was going to say legacy code, but I don't like that term. It started like with code that we already had from other products because a lot of the financial model can translate pretty well once you've defined it. So in this case, we wanted to make the user see information about bonds and provide them with metrics and data. So the logic was already there, and this was a step towards making that public. And we did it in this case using a microservices architecture, which was pretty new for us. And this is also another difference it has is that this is cloud hosted by us, like Mercap Portfolio previously. So that's like a pretty big difference for us because it's not on premise and it changes a bit of the paradigm of how you maintain it. So this has a monthly subscription model where we connect directly from Smalltalk with payment providers. It is written almost 100% in Smalltalk. I'm not saying 100 just because there's like a simple node redirect component. So that's the only weird thing. But we made it with microservices and with Smalltalk all the way. So I will show you just a bit of that in the next slide. So this is a really, really simplified graph because I don't want to get into detail, but basically, we have like that middle thing would be Abaco and its services. It shares some of its services and mostly the heavy logic with Mercap Portfolio. These are all microservices that are written mostly in Pharo and VA, but there's also a Gemstone database. And when I said I was going to answer your question, I kind of will, because where are we using Pharo versus VA? We are using VA mainly to model our most complex side of the business and our financial model. And we, at least for now, we are using Pharo to model simpler objects that are usually also persisted on relational databases. I'm sorry. And actually the VA components in this architecture are all persisting to gemstone because, as I think Maxi said a while ago, we are using it to persist like pretty big and complex objects. Gabi said that, I'm sorry. So yeah, this is a microservices architecture built with different flavors of Smalltalk, and where we connect to different industry standards for working with microservices. And the good thing is Smalltalk didn't slow us down in working in this way. And on the contrary, it really helped us because it's a place where we can model complexity and where we can build with the frameworks we previously showed pretty complex and interesting systems and still use a microservices architecture with the benefits it brings and still deploy it with Docker, publish with traffic. Those are some of the services you have on the right that are like satellite services we use. And yeah, on Navaco, we are using a lot of the previously mentioned frameworks.
Did you tell them that they can try it in Spanish?
Oh yeah, you can actually try out Abaco.
The free tier.
There's a free tier. Yeah, the whole product is in Spanish, so that might be a bit of a problem for most of you. But if you want to, there's a free tier. You can log in and you'll be able to try it out. You will be seeing a Willow front end where the application is running on Launchpad. The APIs are managed with Stargate. The measurements are using Aconcagua and Chaltén. You will see a lot of graphs and charts using HighCharts ST, something that I will talk a bit about. And the styling will be provided by Renard. So yeah, it's like a whole showcase of what we've done with these frameworks. So, and it's also a live product. So everything we do on it and the fixes we make for the frameworks will be publicly available to you. And if you, as we said previously, you have any recommendation, refactors, or issues that you want to share with us about the frameworks, feel free to share them because we are constantly using and any improvement comes in handy. So yeah, I think that's it. I'll be talking about some frameworks now. Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Oh yeah, any questions about the architecture, microservices with Smalltalk, the products, anything? Okay, I'll move.
How do you deploy it? Do you, is it an automated deploy? Do you push these things out? Is it like a GitHub?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the CI/CD in GitHub. Is that what you're doing, and then you build Docker images and push it out?
Yeah, there are many steps for the deployment and the deployment level. We have the deployment for the Docker images that's a CI step that builds a Pharo image first, tests it, and then deploys a Docker image with the Pharo image inside and the pre-configured parameters of Launchpad to run it. There's also, after that, the deployment of the whole Docker swarm, and there's also the deployment of the servers with Terraform. Yeah, we have like the CI pretty good at this point. There's still a lot of work to do, like always, but on the automation side, we are pretty happy with it.
I haven't heard you mention a repo for some Terraform encapsulation, because that stuff's nasty.
I'm sorry to say that we are still writing Terraform.
Oh God.
By hand. Yeah, it's one of the most inconsistent things we write in terms of syntax. I know your pain, and it could be good to make a Smalltalk wrapper for that, but At least for now, we are writing by hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Question from my side. When you use Willow for that, there's this, let's say, kind of also a discussion about, okay, server-side rendering versus client-side things. And today, let's say, architectures are mostly done with also REST-based APIs on the server, and client-side, you have lots of these JavaScript frameworks, thousands of them. Mostly you have AngularJS or React mostly. And you can offer applications as progressive web applications that can install directly even on the machine just with a click. Is Abaco something in between, or is it still C-side, server-side rendered in full with Ajax-based things?
Yeah, for now it's still using Willow and server-side rendering. Yeah, and we have encountered some problems when we've hit around 2,000 users in the same time or things like that. But one of the integrations I didn't put in the slide was a really recent one that we started using Memcache. So the thing is, when you start needing more instances of your Willow application, you can just pop them up. But the thing that is that you sometimes need some shared data between C-side sessions. So we started using Memcache for that, but scalability is pretty good. It's because if you have a Smalltalk image that only has the front end, you can just scale it to as many instances as you want, and you shouldn't have any problem, at least if you're sharing the things that need to be common between them. Did I answer your question?
I think you did.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So, okay, HighCharts. HighCharts ST, actually, it's a Smalltalk wrapper of the HighCharts JS library. HighCharts.js is a library to build charts and graphs and stock charts and even maps, but we are implementing in HighCharts.js only the HighCharts basic stuff and the HighStocks, which is the stock part. And it's an easily configurable wrapper that just makes it easier to work with HighCharts graphs and configure them like pretty naturally, let's say. And it works on Pharo, on Gemstone 64, and on VA Smalltalk. If you hop into Abaco, you can see it running. All of our charts are rendered on it. And the thing is, you can go into the next slide. A pretty interesting thing is that all of the library code is automatically generated based on the official HighCharts.js documentation. So any example that you see on the JavaScript documentation is really, really easy to follow on the Smalltalk wrapper. And it also makes things a bit more, let's say, comfortable, at least that's my take on it. But you can refactor and change the configuration to turn it into smaller pieces of code that you can enable or disable if you want. And here you have, in the repo, you actually have some usage examples to, if you want to see. Here you have an example of how just a piece of configuration that of one of the charts we previously saw on the last slide is done. Actually, it just provides you with a Smalltalk counterpart to it. At least in my humble opinion, it lets you build abstractions to easily configure charts So if you want to know more, there's docs, and I think the usage example is pretty good. So check it out. I've seen it. And if you want to see how the code is generated, at least that's an interesting part for me. And it's also on the same repo, so you can.
And the unit tests also.
Oh yeah, and the unit tests are also automatically generated, so that's pretty cool. Okay.
I think that's the killer with these things, isn't it? You can easily refactor the code. It's not find and replace strings anymore. It's proper refactoring. And like you said, you can extract common bits. Whereas when you don't do that, you just end up with this crap everywhere. So it's nice.
Yeah. One, I think maybe a common thing between many of our frameworks are that we are used to building abstractions that make, if you need to have any nasty stuff, at least you can hide them between enough abstractions that you don't have to deal with that in your daily basis. Because I've been lately using HighCharts React and the JS side of HighCharts, and everything is, like, let's say, available to you easily, but also anything is in front of you all of the time, and you don't have any abstractions to build that in a way that you don't have to think about how it works beneath. So that's a thing that I take from it. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
it's a shame our industry keeps going that way, isn't it? Just like they don't let you easily make these abstractions. Who, the guys that design these frameworks and use them, they're just used to like firing up their text editor and just cutting and pasting this stuff. That's the shame.
Yeah, I think that side of it has to be available if you want to see how it's made, but I don't personally like to deal with it on a daily basis. So if you can hide it from me and make it easier for me to use, I'm a user of your framework, not a developer of it. So I found that as a feature. Yeah. Okay, and I'll talk a bit about Superliminal. Superliminal is a framework that facilitates the usage of HTTP requests and allows you to create API clients, which are also abstractions on top of the sync clients. A pretty big feature it has is that it provides a unified interface in BA and Pharo, making it simpler to do the same request on both Smalltalk dialects. So if you're using Superliminal, you can do exactly the same request with the same code in the two different dialects, which is not the case by default. It also makes caching simpler. It helps with e-tags handling and resource update handling, and provides native support for service discovery using Consul, which is a service discovery software that I had on the architecture slide. And also you can use file service discovery where you define your services. Here you have two simple examples of what I found an interesting get, because the easier one is just plain really simpler. And you have a get and a post. These two examples that both come from Abaco, and this is live running code. And if you want to know more, you can go visit the docs. I think this one is a pretty simple framework that will make your life easier, and you won't have to think about it. Yeah. I think if you don't have
here in the get case, because it's not obvious from the code, if you run twice this method and the response has some caching control headers and the version you have is still valid, it will automatically use that response. It will not perform the actual request again.
Yeah. Any questions?
Okay, that's more. Okay, we are approaching the end. Okay, just to let you know, as Mati showed before, we are using Docker images for deploying. So just to mention that we have Pharo Docker images available. One is for the Pharo VM. It's a Docker image including the Pharo VM, and the other includes also the Pharo runtime.
No.
And these images can be used to just running headless Pharo. So you can run the standard Pharo image and do it to evaluate some code and do what you want. Or you can use it as a base for creating your own containers. So here we have a Dockerfile part. So you can say, oh, start for the Pharo image that we have in a container, load my project and my code, and later copy just the final artifacts, the image and the changes on source file, and you got a new container with your code that you can deploy. If anyone has some questions, just ask it. Okay, now Launchpad. What is Launchpad? It's an MIT licensed library, and we usually are accustomed to deploy Smalltalk images as the final artifact. And in this case, you need, for every application starting a container, there are common steps that you always need to do, like configuring handling, taking some configuration for somewhere, because we need external configuration and credentials, ports, host names, connection details. And usually you have to do something when the application shuts down, because in that cloud world, if a service will go to shut down, you have to, for example, report the service discovery that this instance is not longer valid. So it will give it, it will notice that this is not available. So this library helps with every of these aspects. So applications built on top have a structure to standardize the startup configuration and shutdown of Smalltalk applications. So what provides the Launchpad? The command line interface to list, explain, and start applications available within the image. You can have more than one application in the same Smalltalk image. In the case you are using containers, it's not common, but you can do it. Also provides structure definition for configuration and several ways to read that configuration later. Affordances for logging and error tracing, because when you're running headless in the cloud, you will need logs and metrics and info if the service is running, if failed, because why it failed. It also includes inline help. In the command line, you can ask for help for a specific application, and you will get info about the available configuration options and what are supported. It also includes some specific containers info, because it provides a base Docker image with some bash scripts. So you only have to give it your own Smalltalk image with Launchpad loaded, and the start and the shutdown, it's already covered. And it also implements a health check mechanism, because the container images usually have some way to tell the runtime, the Docker runtime, if they are alive. And it also provides options to do graceful shutdown. When the application shutdowns, you need to do some, usually in our case, is to unregister them from the service discovery. Here a glimpse of how you define the configuration parameters. So in this case, I have two configuration parameters that this application requires, and you can provide this configuration or using command line arguments or using an ini file or a JSON file or using environment variables. And you can combine all these ways to provide information to the running application. For the logging infrastructure, we are using Beacon and Bell. That it's a timing framework of Beacon. So you just emit log records, and later that log records. In our case, we are just outputting that records to the standard output, because in the container it's easier to just take the standard output and consolidate that with some already available tooling. There's also tracing infrastructure included. Every Launchpad application that starts installs a top-level error handler. So if there's an error that nobody handles, it will produce a stack trace. The stack trace can be textual or binary. In the case of Pharo, we are producing fuel dumps.
There's a question.
Oh, yes.
If the code comments and tutorials are in Spanish, English, or both?
Usually in English.
Yeah, I think everything.
Everything is in English.
All of our code base.
Yeah. All of the public code is in
Public
English.
code base.
There may be some comments in Spanish in the business part of the code, but that's not the stuff that we publish to GitHub. And the tutorials
code and documentation is in English.
Yeah, the tutorials, the technical blog is also in English, I think.
Yeah.
All the posts.
Just applications are in Spanish.
Yeah. And some of them can be translated, but they would still have the Argentina's market stuff, so it's not as useful.
Okay, and there's also a debug mode. So if we want to bypass that top-level handler and get a debugger in the image, you can enable the debug mode. And finally, as I already mentioned, there is Docker support. So we have a base image that can be used as a base to add your code on top. And this image will include the health check and will automatically trap sick terms, because in Docker containers, if the Docker runtime tries to kill your app, the image needs to know to perform some cleanup. So this is out of the box provided. Any more questions about Launchpad? No? Okay. Let's go to the last one. I will talk a bit about Kepler. Kepler is a library that provides a way to organize your software and your system as a set of loosely coupled systems, which one has a well-defined responsibility. And we use it to produce in most of our products, and we can produce, for example, some of our products are modular monoliths, are just one image, but for each customer, we can have different subsystems that can be plugged or activated or have different implementations. So here we have with the same code base, we have the system for two customers. And for example, each system has an interface that has to implement. And one customer authenticates to the system using WinLogon, and the other authenticates using LDAP. And you just need to swap what system implementation you want to use. Also, a system implementation needs to declare the dependencies that have by using the required interfaces. So the whole system, when startups and shutdowns, can check that you have all the subsystems that you need to run. And this composition is dynamic. It can be changed on the fly. No, not always we change it, but we can swap sometimes we have swapped one implementation for another in a running image. Okay, and some good outcomes for this is that we can run the same system test with every implementation. We have different authentication system. We just write one set of tests for authentication and run the same test with all implementations, because everyone had to work the same. We can verify installation consistency, because if you declare what interfaces you depend and you are missing some subsystem, the system will tell you. So when the system startups and shutdowns as a whole, you are okay. You know that you have everything you need to work.
Questionnaire? Not that is all that we wanted to cover for all of the different frameworks and products. I don't know if there are leftover questions or any of the.
I'll send a list of the things we talked about to the chat. So if you have a question about something and you don't know the name or how to phrase it, you'll have a bit of help.
Okay. Tim said at some point that he had to step away, and Francisco will be managing this.
Yeah, thank you very much for all this presentation, guys.